being on a plane, you're sitting next to a stranger, they lean over and say, hey, I'm just starting my journey. What advice do you have for me?
First of all, let me appreciate you for asking a question that I haven't been asked after 2,500 or so interviews over the years.
The very, very first thing I would say is you have to drop the ego, which is everyone's greatest obstacle. And so the ego is your ego.
The fear of trauma, again, in the future is called anxiety because you didn't know how to deal with it in the past.
In 2008, Grant and I had been married for 4 years. I was pregnant with my first child. The economy was collapsing, and we were on the verge of losing everything financially.
Hey everyone, Corey Poirier here, back with a new edition of the Enlightened Passenger Show. I'm super excited for my guest today, Dr. Michael Newman, an award-winning, board-certified plastic surgeon. I hope you enjoy this conversation with Dr. Newman. I think you're going to learn a lot about plastic surgery and what's possible these days. Very exciting conversation. Also, do not forget that we also want you to know about the Enlightened Passenger book. This is my little promotion for the moment, but the Enlightened Passenger book is available at thisisthebook.com. Again, thisisthebook.com. This is the book that inspired this show, and feel free to check out the book. It's a fictional parable. I think you'll dig it. Again, thisisthebook.com. And until that time, here is Dr. Newman, and I'll see you on the other side of this interview. Hey everybody, it's Corey Poirier back with another edition of the show. I'm here with a special guest today, Dr. Newman. And Dr. Newman, where I'd like to start, I always do this, which is I know different than most interviews, but I usually get the guests to tell us a little bit about themselves versus me reading a bio or trying to remember a bio. So you can tell us a little bit about yourself, and then we'll kind of dive right in.
Sure, yeah. I am a board-certified plastic surgeon. I'm based here in Los Angeles with 2 offices, one in Beverly Hills, one in Torrance, and do a wide variety of plastic surgery, face, breast, body, including a fair amount of breast reconstruction after cancer.
Wow. So, I mean, I want to start there. I shared with you off air that my wife and I, this is really present to us. In fact, I was also sharing, which I didn't plan to mention this, but last night I went to see Garth Brooks, and he did requests. And the first person he did the request for was a husband requesting him to play To Make You Feel My Love to his wife who had breast cancer. Wow. Like we didn't know, and you don't notice, I think it's like the car you buy that you see everywhere, how common breast cancer was until my wife was diagnosed with it. And so if we start there, are you seeing, I guess, like you find and you see an increase in breast cancer, or is it just that we see it more often now?
I think there's just more awareness, and I think people are more open to talking about it, which is great. You know, I think the more we share, the more we can understand and help each other. So it's definitely around like a 12% incidence, but I think we just hear about it more.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, it's like when you buy that car and you thought, I've never seen that car around ever. I thought I got the most unique car, and then you see it everywhere. I mean, 2 years ago I bought a purple Mercedes, and I thought, who else has one of those? And and I'm in a tiny little town, and now I know there's 4 of them.
4 purple Mercedes in one town?
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Like, that surprises me.
Yeah, it shocked me, like whenever I discovered it. And I discovered it because there's only one place that'll service them. So like, oh no, there's 3 other ones. So, I mean, so from that point of view.
So they know, yeah.
Yeah, so they know for sure. So having said that, can you talk to us a little bit about the difference between perhaps what you do and then maybe, because I know you have an option where it's not necessarily a traditional implant, for example. So what does that look like?
Yeah, so I did a fellowship in breast reconstruction and breast surgery overall. And so I do a lot of cosmetic breast surgery and reconstructive breast surgery. And really there's a fusion between those things because we're trying to make the breasts look good, whether it's for a cosmetic purpose or a reconstructive purpose. And so when it comes to either one of those, we can either use an implant to make a breast full or recreate a breast mound, or we can use some of the patient's own tissue. And so when we're using their own tissue, if it's for a cosmetic purpose, we can do liposuction, so we can get rid of fat where people don't want it and inject it into the breast, which is great. And I call that the forever breast surgery because then it allows the breast to be there forever without maintenance, because implants do have a time life to them, 10, 20 years, and they have to be replaced. Versus when we use their own tissue, that tissue is there forever. And so the same thing applies to breast reconstruction. We can use an implant to reconstruct the breast, or we can take tissue, typically from the abdomen, but also possibly from the thighs, butt, back, etc., and use that to reconstruct the breast instead, which lasts forever.
Wow. So, I mean, I was going to ask you what the benefits of going that road, and I think you just summarized a few key ones, like the fact that it's forever, and like you said, it can be done like a liposuction type thing at the same time. So do you find it's more popular now? Like, I mean, I don't mean than it was before, but I mean, from what you see, do more people request that to you than the the other option, like a traditional implant? Or
implant reconstruction is definitely still more common, just because it's a simpler surgery, simpler recovery. Some people don't have enough tissue to use anyway. But the autologous, or the tissue reconstruction, the flap reconstruction, has also advanced as well. So we're better able to do it. We're able to get a better result. And so I think as that has continued to improve, more people are interested.
so when you say, as far as the healing process, just out of curiosity, for the average layman or woman, what is it like a healing process look like? After going, like, I don't even, to be honest, as a guy, I don't even know what an implant healing process looks like. So when you say it's a bit longer, are we talking like 10 months, a year, 6 months, 4 months? Like, I'm just curious what that idea is.
Yeah, I'd say at 2 months at most for any recovery time. Recovery time for most surgeries can be anywhere from a couple days to at max 1 to 2 months.
A couple days, okay. And so I guess the other thing I'm curious about is, whenever it comes to this, if you're doing like a liposuction and stuff, where are the different places you can take and put that? Like, is it just breasts that you would do that, or is there other ways to do that?
Yeah, so fat is liquid gold in our minds, and so the great news, we could take fat from anywhere people don't want it, and put it wherever we do want it. So it's really a great resource, and I think it was underappreciated in the past. Fat always gets like this, bad image or bad name, but fat's great. It helps us look good, it helps us feel good. It just needs to be in the right place. So the most popular places to put it, we said breasts, face, typically the cheeks, sometimes the jawline, and the butt, right? We all know about the BBL. Everybody wants a bigger butt. I know it's been a big trend in the past. It's kind of, trending towards more natural look now, but still people want a fuller, rounder shape. So those are the most popular spots.
Well, it's interesting too when you say like it had a bad rap before, and that's kind of changing. I find it's the same with Botox. Like my wife had a car accident, and so she had persistent headaches, and she said the only thing that would relieve it is if she would get, like, she was in Western Canada, and she was covered under Blue Cross there, and she went in and they would basically put a needle in, and it would just go. She said it felt like just like a release after like 6 months. She'd go every 6 months, and by the time she got there in the 6 months, her head was just like compacted, and just one little shot of Botox. And it wasn't even like, she didn't even do it cosmetically. It was just therapeutic. And she said now she misses it because where we're at, she can't get it. Not even that they won't cover it. Nobody will even do it locally for therapeutic. It's only cosmetic.
Yeah, it's disappointing. It definitely has some major therapeutic benefits, headaches, migraines being the biggest one. And it's tough to find people to do it because I think, unfortunately, medical professionals get underpaid to do that procedure. And it's a shame because I think there's a lot of benefit to it. And, it is expensive to do it on your own because you use a much higher dose for people that are getting treated for headaches than you would for cosmetic purposes.
So let me ask you this completely alternate question on the breast reconstruction side. One of the things that my wife struggled with was back and neck pain, because she was heavier up top. And so she was actually on a waiting list. I think it was going to be 3 years to get breast reduction. And she kind of jokes now and saying, like, then she got cancer and it was done immediate and paid for. But what she noticed is immediately her neck and her headaches are all gone. Like, so she knows now, or feels now, it was from the weight. So in a circumstance like that, how do people then decide? Because it's not like, I don't know if you maybe carry something around with you, but how do you decide if you were paying, and let's say you were 5 pounds each? Like, how do you decide then what to do? Like, do you guys ever run into that? Like, people like, I was too big before and I want to go smaller, what have you. How do people decide? Because I was starting to think, like, how's she going to know what's going to be okay and not give her pain again?
So you mean regarding breast reduction, I guess?
Well, I guess, yeah. Well, like when you're putting the implants or what you're putting back in,
gotcha.
like if 5 pounds on each side was giving her neck pain, and she doesn't obviously want to be 5 pounds again, but then 1 pound might not affect her at all. And I just don't know how she's even going to figure that out. Like, or would she carry something around with her that weight and see? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't think there's really a good answer or solution. But I think what we do is, we try something. We try and do something in proportion to their body, which, is a kind of an aesthetic or artistic perception. And based on that, we usually can get a pretty good result as far as people's symptoms and, neck pain, back pain. But 5 pounds sounds like a lot, so I think less would make sense for sure.
Yeah, she doesn't. So weird scenario, but she told the doctor, I want you to weigh them. And he told one lady, but that lady didn't tell the next lady. So she never got to find out. But she's pretty confident it was at least 5 each. And he said, I think it was at least 5 each. So they're just speculating.
Yeah.
I know it was heavy.
Yeah, typically we weigh that tissue, at least here in the US, we weigh that tissue afterwards. And part of why we weigh it is for that reason, is so that we have a number and we can say, all right, when we're doing that reconstruction, do we want to be that size, bigger or smaller? We have kind of a starting point. So
yeah, she was disappointed that they didn't. So, so I guess I want to dive a bit deeper into the work that you do. So first, I'd love to ask you, just out of nowhere, what's your favorite part about what you do? Like, why did you get into it? What drove you there? Was there a catalyst? Did you have something in your life that pushed you there? I'm just curious as to how it started and why.
Yeah, it's a good question. Plastic surgery is just fun, right? It's making people happy, and that's really the best part about my job, is afterwards seeing people happy and enjoying their bodies, enjoying their results from whatever it is, cosmetic surgery, reconstructive surgery, etc. But I didn't really know what to expect when I was looking at different fields. How do I know that that's going to be part of what plastic surgery is? And so the good part about medical school is you get to try everything out. You rotate through all these different specialties, and I really didn't know what I wanted to do, but I loved surgery. I loved the mechanical nature of it. I loved the anatomy, loved the instantaneous results, because if you're giving somebody a blood pressure medication, well, it's going to take months or even years to see that benefit. But in surgery, you get an improvement right as soon as you're done, and you can see it, and even more so in plastic surgery. And so when I rotated through all the different fields, plastic surgery really seemed very magical to me, especially these transformative procedures where we'd be taking abdominal tissue and making a new breast, or taking part of the leg bone and making a new jaw, taking a toe and creating a new thumb. So some of these reconstructive procedures were just incredible. And that magical nature was just very inspiring.
So I don't even probably have to ask you this because I think I know your answer, but I was going to ask if you think that plastic surgery gets a bad rap. But I know, one of the things that I often wonder is, you want to help people and you want to be happy, but you hear stories of people that they don't see what you see, meaning even after it's done, they're like, that's not what I asked for. Or the other side is maybe they now don't look like they traditionally would have, and then regret it. And so I'm wondering, do you ever run into that where you feel like I should say something here, or is that part of it, coaching them and saying, did you think about this? Or is it more just, this is what they want regardless of what I think is really going on here, meaning maybe they won't be happy, or like I said, they are seeing something that is not really what I think everybody else is. Is there any side to that where you have those conversations, or is it more just this is what you're paying for, this is what you want, good luck?
Yeah, such a challenge and such a common issue. The bottom line is I turn people away all the time. I discourage them often from doing what they come in asking for. And it's mostly because I want the best thing for them. And their plastic surgery, as you said, has gotten a bad rap in the past. And it's because people overdo it. They do too much of something or do the wrong thing, and it looks bad. And that's what people notice. But I think good plastic surgery is really plastic surgery that you can't see. So if you meet somebody on the street, you've never seen them before, you shouldn't be able to look at them and say, wow, they've had plastic surgery. If you can, then I think it's poorly done.
Yeah, and I feel and again, it's just talking out loud, but whenever I see certain stars, you're like, at that age, how do they look like that? Yes, there's some probably cases where it's just good genes. And of course, some of them say never had anything done. But there's sometimes where they just have such a great plastic surgeon that they just still look great. And yeah, I think it's amazing because you do see those people where they're like, oh, I wish I had their genes, but sometimes those aren't genes, sometimes there's a little bit extra help in there.
That's right. Help is the right word. And that's the thing, they look refreshed, they look healthy, they look attractive, they don't look done.
Yeah, that's a key thing. Again, I won't say any names, but there's certain people I look at and I'm like, they don't look, I don't know what the word is, but they've had it done. They don't look necessarily like a traditional person looks and it's, yeah, I don't know. I think they're obviously looking for something specific, but I actually think it probably costs them, if they're an actor, it probably costs them roles sometimes because you can't play more than certain parts now because of it. So right. I think it is an important consideration.
Absolutely. No, I think a lot of people end up with kind of some distortion They look cartoonish, and that can affect their career, especially if they're living on their appearance. So it's a big deal.
And so, also curiosity, and when I ask any of these questions, I never ever want to out anybody. So I'm just more curious, men versus women. Like, what's the percentage? Is it like as high as, for me, I don't know why I always just naturally, we have these certain judgments that we always have and carry with us. I always just think it feels like there's more females getting plastic surgery. Is it that case? Like, or is there like a closer balance or?
Yeah, definitely more females. I think your perceptions are true. It might be like 80-20, 85-15, something like that. So definitely most of the people getting plastic surgery out there are women. But we have noticed that more men are getting plastic surgery. And part of that is because I think we're all more aware, more self-aware of our image, our appearance, and we're more comfortable talking about plastic surgery and admitting that we've had stuff done. And, it doesn't have to be anything dramatic, but it could be just some maintenance or some fine-tuning. And so the guys that come in usually come in for a couple specific things, nose surgery or liposuction. Those are the two most common. And then, of course, there's the whole hair transplant world that is mostly men specific, but I don't include that in the plastic surgery category as much.
And is it easy? I mean, easy is probably a weird operative word for this, but it is obviously possible, I guess, for those that kind of go, let's call it, in my perspective, because it's only my opinion, maybe go a little far. It is possible to reverse most things. Is that correct?
So you mean if somebody gets overdone and looks kind of messed up and try to back it off?
Can it be done?
It can be done. It's tough, though. It's way easier to just do it right the first time. And so that's why I tell people when they come in, they might say, oh, well, you're kind of expensive. I want to, I got this cheaper quote. I want to maybe go to them instead, or maybe I'll go to Mexico or South America. I can get a deal down there. It's risky because if you get something done and it doesn't turn out well, trying to undo it not only is sometimes impossible, but it ends up being more expensive too. You have to pay for it, 2.5, 3 times, because trying to fix something is way more difficult than just trying to do it right the first time.
And what about like fillers or lips? Like, is that something that, because I think I heard this, and again, I'm novice to this, but I think I heard like people get it refilled because it does decrease. Is that correct? Or do you have, if you get maybe an overflow of your lips and they're really big and you want it taken out, do you have to take it back out?
Yeah, so filler, all the fillers we use, most of them are temporary. So they do dissolve over time, but they last years. And if it's overdone, then there are medications we can put in to help dissolve that, which is super common. And sometimes we'll even have people dissolve their filler and start from scratch so that we can get rid of all the distortion and then just get a more natural look from the get-go.
So the other thing is when we hear about plastic surgery, I think we also think often Hollywood, LA and stuff like that. Does it make sense, I guess, if you're a plastic surgeon that this is the place to be? Like, it seems like the industry kind of requires there's a little bit more of help, as we said earlier. Because it might be very subtle, obviously, but it feels like Hollywood's the place to be. Is that safe to say?
Yeah, I think that's a safe statement. Now, the people behind the scenes are not necessarily getting plastic surgery also. They might be, but not necessarily for the same reason. So, there are only so many actors and people in front of the camera in the city. But most of them are getting something done. I'll be confident about that. But there are people in front of a camera all over the place. Especially these days, people are on Zoom calls. People are on news stations. So I think there are people in front of a camera all the time. And I think as we become more and more aware about what we look like, we want to look our best. And so definitely this is the hot spot, the mecca of plastic surgery. But I think it's common throughout the country and throughout the world.
And I asked you earlier why you got into it, but is there and again, when any of these things I ask, it's never about a specific person or what have you, it's more just an instance. But is there something that comes to mind where it's like, wow, that was so rewarding to be a part of that? Because again, some of what you're doing is like, we talked about breast reconstruction. I mean, some of what you're doing, it's like, this is their, oh my God, this is my chance at a normal life, for instance. But is there anything that stands out like this, what is so rewarding about what I do?
Absolutely, yeah. I think everything, as you said, is completely rewarding. Everything we do is very rewarding because seeing those people happy afterwards is really the best part of my job. But specifically, the most rewarding situations, I think, are, as you mentioned, breast reconstruction, because you're restoring their body, restoring their figure, restoring their confidence, their self-image, and having people come in and just be so appreciative, incredibly satisfying. But the other category that maybe people aren't as aware of that I think is equally rewarding is moms. Moms have a lot of changes typically after breastfeeding, pregnancy, changes in their stomach, the stretching of their muscles, their breasts getting engorged and then deflating. And so moms really can be very insecure about what their body has gone through as well. Insecure in front of their friends, insecure being intimate in front of their significant other. And it really can affect their life dramatically. And they know what they looked like before, and they're like, I just want to get back to that. I don't want to look crazy. I don't want to look weird. I just want to go back to where I was. And so I think working on moms, that whole mommy makeover industry segment is incredibly rewarding as well. And it really helps people feel better. And I mean, I have stories about women where we've done surgery on that, and they have to lock the door because their husband's chasing around the house, in the evening. So just hearing stories like that is so satisfying.
Now, what about outside of maybe cosmetic work? What about, like, how important is it, do you think, that a person, I mean, this might be another area that I'm taking into, but that a person kind of takes care of themselves on the other side of things? So, for example, like fitness. So, like, whether they do exercise or whether they eat well. I mean, to me, I'm thinking, like, if you're taking care of the shell, they probably should take care of the stuff inside the shell as well. But it's not probably something you factor in as much, or maybe talk to them about as much. But how important do you think it is, if you're going to take care of one thing, that you put some effort into the other as well?
Absolutely. I think it's so critical, and I think people undervalue that. People come in all the time and they're like, oh, I want to lose some weight. Can you just do some lipo? But lipo's really not going to help with your weight. We can do a little contouring, but if you need to lose weight, you have to do it on your own. Now, we do have ways to cheat these days with the medications, Ozempic and Mounjaro, and those have been life-changing. I mean, that has revolutionized the world of healthcare and weight loss for sure. And it's changed a lot of what we do. But definitely, you need to be healthy on the inside, and you have to keep up the results. So definitely people that we do surgery on will do a tummy tuck, and they'll, keep eating and gain weight, and they'll stretch out those muscles. And so if they don't maintain that result, it's not going to stick around.
Well, that's an important question too, because I don't know that everybody knows that, is if you have that done and you start eating like crazy, it's still going to go back, right? Like it's not going to just...
That's right. It's not a dam. It's not going to stop everything,
Right.
And so, yeah, people can eat through any kind of result that we create. So, healthy eating and exercise, strengthening those muscles, even physical therapy, all those things are critical and helpful. And I definitely bring that up in every consultation that has to do with body contouring. Less relevant for facial stuff. I think with the facial stuff, once people get into that, they're pretty conscientious, wearing sunscreen, doing skincare. But the body stuff, I think people slip off the wagon there pretty quickly sometimes, and that could be an issue.
Yeah, I have a friend that I'm trying to remember the name of it, but it was like a gastro thing that she got done.
That's right.
The sleeve, they call it a sleeve?
Gastric sleeve. That's
yeah,
right.
So she had that done, and I know her body, for whatever, I don't know if it was because she did it or not, but I know she eats always like very small bites and small meals. And I don't know if her body's done in a way that she can't eat a lot, but either way, I know, like, we'll go to a restaurant and she eats like a third of what's on her plate, and she's full, I think, too. That's the only circumstance I think I know of where, like, she literally, I mean, I think she said she could eat through it if she forced it. Like, she could expand it. Right. But it was game changing for her. But she said, like, she had to also change who she was. Like, it was a thing where she was at a stage where trying to get it done herself may not have happened. And so that was like the little, what would you call it, boost, or the little head start. But then she said, like, she had to change her way of thinking around food and mindset and stuff too. And so, yeah, I feel like, as you said, people can eat through anything. I feel like the world we're in now, there's a lot of push, and it's very easy to overeat. It's very easy. Like, it's so much easier to go through a drive-through and supersize it than it is to take time to make your own meal or go to a restaurant and sit for hours. And we're also busy. So that's why I was curious if you also talk to people about that, like the other aspects of it beside let's just do the quick fix.
Yeah, I think it's so critical. And so in our office, we actually offer some of these weight loss medications for that reason, because people do come in and they're, either having trouble maintaining their result, or they're trying to get their body prepared for a nice result. And so if they need to lose weight before surgery, then we'll, help them with some of those medications, the semaglutide, tirzepatide. And we'll talk about lifestyle. We'll talk about dieting. We'll talk about exercise. And just like you said, this world, and sometimes we have to remind people, this world, it is so easy to eat. Everything is designed to make us hungry, to make us spend money, to make us go out to our restaurants, and portions are big. Everything tastes good. The chefs are getting paid to make things look good and taste good and be appetizing. But that's not the way life was, 100 years ago, or even in caveman times. Food was not plentiful. It wasn't out. You couldn't just grab it on every street corner. And so our bodies are not designed to eat that much. And we actually use fewer calories every year. So every year you should actually be eating less than you did the year before. And people come in all the time telling me, hey, I eat such small meals. I eat, the same amount I always have my whole life, but now I just can't keep the weight off. Well, it's not because of your body. It's because you're eating too much. You're eating more than you need.
Yeah, I'm into that right now with traveling on the road and stuff like that, and it's been a struggle because I've kept, like you said, I eat small meals, but what happened for me is, like, I gained extra weight, and now I seem to be staying there, but it's not coming off. And part of it's on me to change the eating, but also move more too. But and that's the other thing too. I find, like, I sit more now than I used to. Like, I was a speaker for 20 years, and I would go out and travel to an event and be traveling through the airports and speak standing up and all this. And then COVID happened, and all of a sudden our new company meant that I didn't have to be the one at the event speaking, and I'm sitting all the time at an office. So I know my lifestyle has changed, and I'm trying to make the adjustments, but I understand that it is tough. I wanted to ask you about, and I know I'm pronouncing it wrong, but Ozempic.
Yes.
I know it's a big thing. Like, I see people, like, I won't say a name, but I see a pop star, for instance, I know, that struggled with weight for quite a while, and I saw her one day. I'm like, what just happened? Because it seemed like only 6 months before, and I'm hearing a lot of the stories. And so the question is, based on what you know about it, is there any drawback to it, or is it just literally like the miracle thing now that's really just working?
There are always drawbacks to everything, but there are very few. And I really think it is a miraculous medicine. And I think it's changed everything in our society. I think obesity is an epidemic. Just like you said, our lifestyles are more sedentary now. If you look back, hundreds of years ago, people were farming, people were hunting, very physically active things, building, construction. Now, most of us are at a computer or on a Zoom and not burning very many calories. So we just don't need those calories. And so we need a reminder to not eat so much. And one of the solutions is, like you said, your friend that had the gastric sleeve surgery, because our stomach expands and contracts depending on how much we put in there. And so if you trim off part of the stomach and you eat a smaller meal and get that reminder to be full, then you're less likely to consume as many calories. So Ozempic really works the same way. It's just a weekly injection, and it discourages you from eating by making you feel full. So your stomach retains the food instead of moving it along. It slows down the intestinal tract, and you feel full and you eat less often. It's that simple.
And out of curiosity, and then I want to move to what I call the rapid fire questions. But so out of curiosity with that, like you said, you feel full. So does it, because I always think of, like, some people love to eat for the taste of it. Does it change that too? Like, in other words, you just don't crave the stuff as much? Or is it that you feel full, so you just don't eat? Like, I'm just curious, do you know if it's that side? Like, if you're somebody who always craves a whole bunch of certain foods, will you still crave those and be hungry for those? Or is it just you feel full all the time, so you just don't even crave those anymore?
Yeah, it doesn't alter the taste of food, which is great. So you still get to enjoy those flavors, but it just makes you feel full faster. So you eat less volume with each meal, and you eat less often. So, a lot of us are like, oh gosh, I can't wait till lunch, I'm so hungry. Well, that thought just doesn't come up, maybe till dinner. And some of the problem actually could be with these medications that people forget to drink. They don't get thirsty because they feel full all the time. So you actually have to remind yourself to drink fluids and to make sure you eat some high protein meals to get the right calories in your body, but still lose the weight because you're not eating as often as much.
Well, I guess that was my one other add-on to that is, so gaining muscle is still very possible then if it's just doing that switch to make sure you're eating enough protein and stuff like that?
Absolutely. So if you're eating the protein and exercising, you could still build muscle while on those medications. Now, they are dose dependent, right? So we adjust the dose for each person, and depending on where that threshold is, might allow that person to still build muscle and still lose weight.
Okay, very cool. So I said I had some rapid fire questions as we wind down.
Sure.
You don't have to answer them super quick or anything,
Okay.
but it's just there's a kind of a series of questions I sometimes ask. And so I'll jump in really quick. One of them is I call the passenger question. So it's kind of what inspired the book that I have out now, The Enlightened Passenger. And the question is very simple. If you're sitting on a plane next to a stranger, they leaned over and asked you for some life advice based on what you've learned in the years since. What do you think you might tell a stranger on a plane?
Wow. Well, I don't know. I really like to talk about my career-related stuff because I feel like it's been such a big part of my life. But one of my biggest statements to people is, an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. And it's such a simple concept and such a familiar saying, but I think it's very true in plastic surgery too. And so, things like wearing sunscreen, protecting your skin, getting a little Botox to prevent some wrinkles, doing a little exercise, being conscious about what you eat and not, gaining too much weight. Those simple things, I think, can make a life-changing moment for them.
So I'm going to flip it a little bit and ask you a similar question, but more related to yourself. So if you were able to get, let's say they did exist, but you were able to get in a time machine, go back and talk to a younger Dr. Newman, give him some life advice based on what you've learned in the years since. What do you think you might tell a younger you?
Yeah, well, I think, that's such a tough question to answer, but I think we all have, made little changes in our life along the way. And I would have said, maybe stay focused and, focus on your career, which I think I did most of the way, but there are definitely times along the way where I could have gotten a little bit of advice from a mentor that would have helped make my life a little more efficient. And it's really tough to find a good mentor out there. But if you can find a mentor that can help streamline your life and help you make the right decisions at the right time, that's the ideal.
And how do you define success? Like, what does that word mean to you?
Success is so broad, right? And so it's really, for me, just happiness. And what does happiness, bring, or where do you get happiness from? I think ultimately happiness comes from relationships. It comes from relationships with people, and it doesn't have to be romantic. It doesn't have to be, strictly professional, but relationships with friends, with colleagues, with family. Having great relationships, I think, is what the ultimate happiness is. But I think part of that success world is having the money to be able to enjoy those relationships. And so you need to do something that makes you happy, helps you build relationships, and gives you money to be able to enjoy those things in life.
I love it. How about, and it's an equally big word, I know, but how about legacy? What does the word legacy mean to you?
Yeah, legacy really is kind of carrying your name or carrying your reputation in some way, right? And so whether that means, children, or that means a brand, or that means an industry or a company, or a new technique, those are all legacy things in my mind.
And so my last question before I ask you just the official, how can we learn more? But the last question before that is, when it comes to, I'll call it like, so, we're talking legacy, we're talking success. The other thing I often like to ask people about is passion. So how important do you think, it sounds like you're passionate about what you do. So how important do you feel it is for a person to do what they're passionate about, or find a passion, or live on purpose? Like, do you think it's important for somebody to find that in their life?
Absolutely. I do, contrast though with some people that I think are searching for a passion, their whole life, and they never find it. So I think you need to explore everything. I think the best thing to do is spend some time with people in different industries. I think you learn about different careers, maybe in, college or high school, but you don't really know about them until you shadow somebody. And most of us really enjoy teaching. So if you are interested in something, or even just curious, go find somebody in the community, reach out to them and say, hey, can I just shadow you for the day? I want to kind of see how this feels as a career. And I think once you find something that you're excited about, you're going to excel. And that's where passion really is motivating.
I love it. So my last question, like I say, I call it the official, you could call it unofficial. But if somebody wanted to learn more about your work, follow what you're doing, reach out to you, maybe some of the things we talked about, they feel they need a little, as we said at the top, a little bit of help in those areas. How would they reach out to you? Where would they go?
Yeah, I think the best way to find me these days, social media kind of runs the world, but the best way to find me, I think, is through Instagram, and my handle is Dr. Newman, Dr. Newman, Plastic Surgery.
Amazing. So, Dr. Newman, this has been an absolute pleasure. I knew it would be. With your permission, I'll call it to be continued.
That sounds good. Looking forward to next time.
Awesome.
Well, there you have it. Our latest interview and our conversation with Dr. Newman. I hope you enjoyed the interview. I hope it enlightened you around what's new in the world of plastic surgery, and I'll enlighten you about the great work that Dr. Newman is doing. And at the same time, again, don't forget to grab your copy of The Enlightened Passenger today. You can get it at thisisthebook.com. Thanks, everybody. Until next time, I'm your host, Corey Poirier.